Caryopsis is looks like a seed rather than a fruit. Kernels of corn and wheat are fruits of this type. Nuts are simple dry fruits that have a stony wall and do not split open at maturity. Nuts are usually large and one-seeded. Examples of nuts include chestnuts, acorns, and hazelnuts. Many so-called nuts do not fit the botanical definition. Pear nuts or almonds and brazil nuts, for example, are seeds, not nuts. So the classification is totally wide. The berries are not berries. Uh, those that are usually not considered berries are actually berries, and nuts are actually not nuts, are seeds. So almonds are actually seeds, not nuts. So an achene is similar to a caryopsis in that it is simple and dry, does not split open at maturity, and contains a single seed. However, the seed coat of an achene is not fused to the fruit wall. Instead, the single seed is attached to the fruit wall at one point only, permitting an achene to be separated from its seed. The sunflower fruit is an example of an achene. One peels off on the fruit wall to obtain the sunflower seed within. Aggregative fruits are a second main type of fruit. An aggregative fruit is formed from a single flower that contains several separate carpels. After fertilization, each ovary from each individual carpel enlarges. As they enlarge, the ovaries may fuse to form a single fruit. Raspberries, blackberries, and magnolia fruits are examples of aggregative fruits. A third type of fruit is the multiple fruit, which forms from the carpels of many flowers that grow close to one another on a common floral stalk. The carpel from each flower fuses with nearby carpels as it develops and enlarges after fertilization. Pineapples, figs, and mulberries are multiple fruits. Accessory fruits are the fourth type. They differ from other fruits in that other plant tissues in addition to ovary tissue make up the fruit. For example, the edible portion of a strawberry is the red fleshy receptacle. Each tiny seed on a strawberry is actually a fruit, an achene that contains a single seed. Apples and pears are accessory fruits called pomes. The outer part of each pome is an enlarged floral tube consisting of receptacle tissue along with portions of the calyx that surrounds the ovary. Wild animals, water, and explosive dehiscents disperse the various seeds and fruits of flowering plants. Effective methods of seed dispersal have made it possible for certain plants to expand their geographic range. In some cases, the seed is the actual agent of dispersal, whereas the fruits perform this role. In tumbleweeds such as Russian crystal, the entire plant is the agent of disseminating because it detaches and blows across the ground, scattering seeds as it bounces along. Tumbleweeds are lightweight and are sometimes blown many kilometers by the wind. Wind disperses the seeds of many plants. Plants such as maple trees have winged fruits adapted for wind dispersal. Light, feathy plums enable other seeds or fruits to be transported by wind often for considerable distances. Both dandelion fruits and milkweed seeds have this type of adaptation. Some plants have special structures that aid in the dispersal of their seeds and fruits by animals. The spines and bulbs of burdock, burrs, and similar fruits often get caught in animal fur and are dispersed as the animal moves about. Fleshy edible fruits are also adapted for animal dispersal. As an animal eats these fruits, it either discards or swallows the seeds. Many seeds that are swallowed have thick seed coats and are not digested. Instead, they pass through the digestive tract and are deposited with the animal's fecus some distance from the parent plant. In fact, some seeds will not germinate unless they have passed through an animal digestive tract. The animal's digestive juices probably aid germination by particularly digesting the seed coat. Some edible fruits apparently contain chemicals that function as laxative to speed seeds through the GI. So the less time those seeds spent in the gut, the more likely they are to germinate. And humans use this kind of seeds as medicine uh, in case of the constipation. So when you have hard time to poop, you can eat those seeds, and like senna seeds are very effective as laxatives. Animals such as squirrels and many bird species also help disperse acorns and other fruits and seeds by burying them for winter use. Uh, Many bird seeds are never used by the animal and germinate the following spring. And this is very common for the squirrels because squirrels are crazy about the nuts. So they put it everywhere, and they forget where they put them because they're in a hurry and running from the uh, predators, from the uh, actually from the wolves and foxes, and uh, that is why they forget some places, uh, and then the seeds will germinate to the trees. So the coconut is an example of a fruit adapted for dispersal by water. The coconut has air spaces that make it buoyant and capable of being carried by ocean currents. Uh, when it washes ashore, the seed may germinate and grow into a coconut palm tree. So palm trees are very common uh, at the islands. So because they are dispersed by the sea. Some seeds are not dispersed by wind, animals, or water. Such seeds are found in fruits that use explosive dehiscence, in which the fruit bursts open suddenly and quite often violently to forcibly discharge its seeds. Pressures due to differences in turgor or to drying out cause these fruits to burst open suddenly. The fruits of plants such as touch-me-not um, and bitter grass split open too explosively that their seeds are scattered a meter or more. You have been that pollination and fertilization are followed by seed and fruit development. Each seed develops from an ovule and contains an embryonic plant and food to provide nourishment for the embryo during germination when the seed sprouts. A mature seed, that is a seed in which the embryo is fully developed, is often dormant, not actively growing, and may not germinate immediately even if growing conditions are ideal. Numerous factors influence whether or not a seed germinates. Many of these are environmental cues, including the presence of water and oxygen, proper temperature, and sometimes the presence of light penetrating the soil surface. No seed germinates, for example, uh, unless it has soap water. The embryo in mature seed is dehydrated, and watery environment itself is necessary for active metabolism. When a seed germinates, its metabolic machinery is turned on and numerous materials are synthesized and degraded. Therefore, water is an absolute requirement for germination. The absorption of water from a dry seed that precedes the germination is known as imbibition. As a seed imbibes water, it often swells to several times its original dry size. Cells imbibe water by osmosis, which is the movement of water across a membrane from one area of high concentration to an area of low concentration, and by absorption of water onto and into materials such as cellulose, pectin, and starches within the seed. Water is attracted and bound to these materials by adhesion, the attraction between unlike materials. Seed germination and subsequent growth also require a great deal of energy because plants obtain this energy by converting the energy of fuel molecules stored in the seed's endosperm and cotyledons to ATP by aerobic respiration. Oxygen is usually needed during germination. Some plants, such as rice, can respire without oxygen during the early stages of germination and seedling growth. This enables the rice plants to grow and become established in flooded soil, an environment that would suffocate most young plants. Temperature is another environmental factor that affects germination. In a group of seeds of the same species, some germinate at each temperature in a broad range of temperatures. Each plant species, however, have an optimal or ideal temperature at which the largest number of seeds germinates. For most plants, the optimal germination temperature is between 25 and 30 degrees by Celsius. Some seeds, such as those of apples, require prolonged exposure to cold before they germinate at any temperature. Some of the environmental factors necessary for seed germination help ensure the survival of the young plant. The requirement of the prolonged cold period ensures that seeds germinate in the spring rather than in the autumn. Some plants, especially those with tiny seeds such as lettuce, require light for germination. A light requirement ensures that a tiny seed germinates only if it is close to the surface of the soil. If such a seed germinates several inches below the soil surface, it may not have enough food reserves to grow to the surface. On the other hand, if this light-dependent seed remains dormant until the soil is distributed and it is brought to the surface, it has a much greater likelihood of survival. In certain seeds, internal factors which are under genetic control prevent germination even when all external conditions are favorable. Many seeds are dormant either because the embryo is immature and must develop further or because certain chemicals are present. The presence of such chemical inhibitions helps ensure the survival of the plant. The seeds of many desert plants, for example, often contain high levels of abscisic acid. Abscisic acid is washed out only when rainfall is sufficient to support the plant's growth after the seed germinates. Some seeds, such as those of legumes, have extremely hard, thick seed coats that prevent water and oxygen from entering, thereby including dormancy. After these seeds are dispersed into the natural environment, exposure to the elements gradually weakens their seed coats so that germination usually occurs. Scarification, the process of stretching or nicking the seed coats physically with a knife or chemically with an acid before sowing it, induces germination in these plants. Once conditions are right for seed germination, the first part of the plant to emerge from the seed is the radicle or embryonic root. As the root grows and forces its way through the soil, it encounters considerable friction from soil particles. The delicate apical meristem of the root tip is protected by a root cap. The plant shoot is next to emerge from the seed. Stem tips are not protected by anything like a root cap, but plants have always to protect the delicate stem tip as it grows up through the soil to the surface. The stem of a bean seedling, for instance, curves over to form a hook so that the stem tip and cotyledons are actually pulled up through the soil. Corn and other grasses have a special sheath of cells called a coleoptile that surrounds the young shoots. First, the coleoptile pushes up through the soil, and then the leaves and stem grow up through the middle of the coleoptile. Certain parts of a plant grow throughout its life. The indeterminate growth, the ability to grow indefinitely, is characteristic of stems and roots, both of which arise from apical meristem. Theoretically, stems and roots could continue to grow forever. Other plants such as leaves and flowers have determinate growth. That is, they stop growing after reaching a certain size. The size of each of these structures varies from species to species and from individual to individual depending on the plant's genetic programming and on environmental conditions such as availability of sunlight, water, and essential minerals. So thank you for your attention. If there are any questions, so no questions, so thank you for attending the class and see you next week.